Good morning, hope you had a great weekend. Welcome to Daybreak. Good morning, it's the 9th of June, Monday morning, start of a new week. Hope you had a great weekend. Last week was just a 4-day week due to King's birthday. We're back to the 5-day week, unfortunately, so get ready to go. All right, let's have a look at some of the news items that we'd like to comment on and also the ones that you may not read about in the media. This one was in the media. This was on Saturday morning in the Dominion Post, the Wellington newspaper. And basically saying that thousands of students are being stood down, suspended or excluded from primary school. There were just over 9,000 cases 4 years ago, and that has now jumped by a third up to more than 12,000. Remember, this is in primary schools. And interesting when you look at the breakdown, so male is the lighter colour. Predominantly males that are playing up, the boys, when they can figure out their gender, of course, they can on these graphs. And also interesting, well, it's concerning to look at why they're being suspended. And that massive peak there, let me just enlarge that massive peak on each of the years is for physical assaults on other students. So kids are being more violent towards others. They say the needs of the kids coming through have exponentially got more complex. Perhaps I should ask why. Physical assaults on other students was most common. Boys were almost 4 times more likely to experience stand-down, suspensions or exclusion. And remember, the Ministry of Education is telling schools not to punish kids, not to exclude them, not to suspend them. So these are schools right at the end of their rope in terms of what they're putting up with. In the budget that we just had, 646 million, so that's 2/3 of $1 billion, is allocated to support children with additional learning needs, including early intervention support. It's interesting, during the anti-smacking debate in 2007, we looked at what had happened in Sweden, which was one of the first countries to ban smacking, and they found that there had been an increase in kids assaulting other kids. And that's exactly what we predicted would happen. The unintended consequences of the anti-smacking law is that kids think they are in the driving seat. They tell their parents, you can't tell us what to do, you can't touch us, but you also can't tell us what to do. There's been this whole children's rights movement, and now teachers are putting up with worse behaviour than they ever would have when we went to school. Standards have dropped, and then we wonder why kids play up, because there are no boundaries. It's a failed experiment, and we are paying the cost, and I am not surprised at all to see this. In fact, in our reports, we've seen that increase start to happen around 2007, and sadly, it's possibly only going to get worse. Something that is also bad is hospice funding. There is a crisis. This was a Radio New Zealand report just this morning. Hospices warning funding shortfalls are putting critical services at risk. Nothing in the budget. Apparently it costs $226 million to run hospices last year. How much of that is funded by the government? Half. So hospices have to go out and fundraise to look after terminally ill people, and they have to find half their budget. And meanwhile, the euthanasia service is fully funded. Even got some staffing for it. Simone Biles, the health minister, says it's up to Health New Zealand to use some of its $1.37 billion budget boost to support hospice services. And Health New Zealand is looking at a plan to how they're going to fund them. Hospice New Zealand Chief Executive Wayne Naylor says it's disappointing that hospices didn't even get a mention, or palliative care didn't even get a mention in the budget. That is true. And as we talked about last week, the access to specialist palliative care services for children is even worse. There's one service and it's about to go out of business because it hasn't got the funding. So once again, this is the elephant in the room around euthanasia. Palliative care is expensive, but it gives far more dignity with dying than euthanasia. Euthanasia is cheap, and that was the elephant in the room. that nobody wanted to talk about. Just on a more lighter topic, the fun police are back. Yes, they want to ban fireworks, and a petition has been presented. It's another one, and it was received by New Zealand First Jenny Marcroft and Nationals Greg Fleming. In 2012, 20,000 people put in a petition. 2015, 25,000 people. 2018, 18,000 people. In 2020, there was a parliamentary select committee. And now there's this new one. What is it? 173,000 signatures, which is pretty good. Be interesting to do a vet on who signed that and how many overseas people. ACC reports it gets about 300 claims a year for injuries caused by fireworks. 300. Wonder how many injuries you get for playing football. I mean, maybe we should ban football as well. Fire and Emergency says the thing that fireworks has caused at least 676 fires since 2019. So that's 6 years. 676 fires. And remember how a New York billionaire's 2023 private fireworks display caused a large rural fire in Queenstown. Look, we put out a media release a couple of years ago when this was when it was going through the Parliamentary Select Committee, and we just said it's up to families to apply common sense and appropriate supervision while enjoying the festivities around Guy Fawkes Day and other festivals. Actually, it's not just Guy Fawkes Day when you hear Guy Fawkes going off. There's some religious festivals as well. There is risk present in many activities that families and communities are involved in: contact sport, biking on public roads, playing at the local playground, trampolining, lighting a barbecue, and many others. It is impossible to take away all risk. There is even a risk associated with public firework displays. Rather than taking away the fun and joy of fireworks, we should be promoting a safety message and encourage parents to strongly supervise use of fireworks. Regulations around the types of fireworks, who can sell them, when, that's okay. But banning them is an overreaction. We should simply focus on getting rid of the stupidity factor. Well, that's our view. I'm interested to hear your views as to whether we should ban fireworks, bar humbug. Apparently, they're not that hungry up north. According to a report, school lunches are going uneaten in Northland. Yes, they're trying to regurgitate the whole school lunches issue. It's gone very quiet, hasn't it? It's obviously been working, and so yeah, they've got to make some story. So apparently some of the school lunches are uneaten, and it's about nationwide, it's about 8% of school lunches funded by the state are uneaten. Now, some schools say the quality is the main reason. They don't like the flavour. The meals are too dry. There is not enough sauce. The pasta can be gluggy. Golly, I wonder if they send back their dinners as well when they get home. Yeah. But the Ministry of Education say that the leftovers actually relate to attendance. So it's kids aren't actually at school. And we know that there is a truancy and attendance problem in New Zealand that they're trying to solve. And interestingly, they're aware that some schools are using the leftover lunches to feed people in the community. So it's a win-win. Seems to be no story. Just while we're talking about schools, I did see this story as well about Shirley Boys High School in Christchurch, who is bringing back traditional single-cell rooms. So there was all this trend to go open plan and to have no walls and classrooms all to be in the same area. I could have told you it was a dumb idea, but they went ahead, partly because I think it was a, contemporary idea by the policy wonks in Wellington, but also it saved money. You don't have to build as many walls. And 6 years after Shirley Boys High revamped their school as a result of the earthquake, they said the open plan classrooms were not working. Why? The level of distraction was just too high. There was too much movement going on. They can hear what's happening in the classroom next door, particularly if something's on the TV. So that level of distraction is a negative factor. Teachers had to limit the noise because they didn't want to disturb other groups. To be a character in front of the class and have all the students laughing as a distraction to other areas. And so next minute they figured out, wow, maybe we should go back to traditional classrooms. Who would have thought? Minister of Education Erica Stanford said open plan classrooms do well work for some schools, but she said it's up to schools to decide themselves. Open plan is a dumb idea. Once again, interested to know what you think of that, but yeah, they do come up with some stupid ideas. Just looking overseas, a lot of pushback happening against the whole pride aspect. We've already seen a plummeting of the number of schools being involved in it in New Zealand. 2 years ago, there was 300 schools. Now it's down to 200. They're not raising that much money. And look, 92% of our schools are getting on with educating, not indoctrinating. It's a great thing. But interesting to see even sports people, well-known sports people, remember the furor and the fallout over Israel Folau and his comments. And now we've got, Kansas, I mean, this is in the US, but Kansas City Chiefs, big team, massive team, you know, think of Auckland City FC or the Chiefs in rugby. The leader has announced a boycott of Pride Night. And then another example I saw was Novak Djokovic, who is probably already your fan as a result of COVID and trying to get into Australia. But he's announced his refusal to celebrate Pride Month in June. He says woke doesn't deserve to be commemorated. So there is starting to be a lot of pushback, and I think that's one of the interesting things around Biden being defeated, or Kamala Harris being defeated last year, is that people feel they have the freedom to actually push back on some of this radical leftist stuff. Speaking of that, Simone Biles, the Olympic gymnastic champion, has been getting into trouble because she had a go at Riley Gaines. Now, Riley Gaines is on the right here. She's the woman, the female, adult human female, and she's standing on the podium next to Leah Thomas, who has won the women's section but is quite clearly a dude. And there was a big spat. Let me just see what they said. Basically, Riley Gaines has been campaigning against transgender in sport, and so Simone Biles decided she would have a go at Riley Gaines and said, you're truly sick, all of this campaigning because you lost a race, in other words, this race, to a dude. Biles said, straight up, sore loser, you should be uplifting the trans community and finding ways to make sports more inclusive. Or creating a new avenue where trans feel safe in sports, maybe a transgender category in all sports, but instead you bully them. One thing for sure, no one is safe with sports with you around. Bully someone your own size. Well, the interesting thing is that the media then went looking, and the problem with the internet is that once it's on the internet, it's always on the internet, and they actually found that back in 2017, Simone Biles said this: good thing girls don't compete against girls or he'd take all the gold medals. Oops. Riley Gaines is doing a fantastic job campaigning against dudes in women's sports. And I just want to show you their latest 30-second advert.
You're truly sick.
Why can't you be more inclusive?
Inclusion matters more than fairness.
You're just a sore loser.
I would stay quiet if I were you.
You're not going to get a job.
If you say anything, you're never going to get a scholarship.
It's just one race.
What's the difference if you're second instead of first?
You're a bully.
Don't be so selfish.
Admit it. It's not about fairness.
You just hate trans people.
Get with the program.
Or at least have the decency to be quiet.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Keep pushing back. Speaking about that, Dr. Henry Moseley of John Hopkins University has condemned the gender ideology movement because his granddaughter became a victim of it. He calls it medical malpractice. Now, Henry Moseley is a physician epidemiologist and professor emeritus at John Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. And his 16-year-old daughter got involved in gender ideology. And basically, he tried to push back. Moseley tried to push back. And he said, gender ideology is like a cult or a religion. And you can't persuade people who have certain religious beliefs that they are contrary to science. According to Moseley, this granddaughter's counsellor was adamant that her distress was not from gender confusion, it was from her family not affirming her trans identity, which of course we've heard all the time. Despite this, Mosley, the lecturer, observed that Pressure, the granddaughter, was self-harming, attempting suicide, and having all kinds of serious mental health problems. The suicide trope, which is used as justification for transing kids and making them further confused. And the suicide ideation doesn't go away post-transition. As we saw in that Australian case last week that we were talking about, where the judge condemned the Melbourne Children's Hospital, the head of the Melbourne Children's Hospital, the doctor who was pushing trans ideology, said that if you oppose it, you're no different to the Nazis. Yeah. So that's how desperate they are becoming for their argument. Now, just to make your morning, don't forget there is a new book on the shelves. And I'm not going to read from it, you'll be glad to know. But I have done a little examination of the wall-to-wall media coverage, but it's been certain media coverage. So, of course, it was on 7 Sharp, which is anything but sharp. Jacinda spoke to Stephen Colbert, spoke to Oprah. And what I've done is I actually watched some of these interviews, so you don't have to. But I haven't looked at her responses. I've looked at the softball questioning line of the media who have fawned over her and the book. And my McBlog, which is out now, the media's love fest with Jacinda and her book. And I can tell you what, you'll quickly see why Mike Hosking, Heather Duplessis-Allen, Sean Plunkett, RCR, Simon O'Connor on Family Matters, McBlog, we won't get an interview with Jacinda because her media minders are very clever. They're only putting her with media who will ask her softball questions, who love her politics, and won't ask any of the hard questions. And I actually suggest some of the hard questions. There was a clip going viral over the weekend, and I'd like to take credit for it. It's been viewed by almost 500,000 people on X, shared widely, and it's this little clip of Jacinda talking to Oprah, and she says this.
Or we have the option of blaming others, of saying that the cause of the insecurity you feel or the financial insecurity you feel is this group or this group. And that is a quick and easy way to do politics. Incite fear. It's the oldest trick in the book, but it is the most harmful and the most damaging. And I talk openly about the alternatives because they exist. There are leaders who champion empathetic leadership, who actually want to solve the problems. But what we see a spotlight more often is that alternative. And I wish so much that we can turn towards those more optimistic, hopeful, and inclusive responses to problems rather than the fear that we see people reach to.
Yep. She said that. Great start to the week, team. Okay, well, better start to the week is to watch Straight Talk tonight at 8 o'clock live, and on the panel tonight, Brendan, Christine, Ashley and Alfred. We are probably going to talk about some of those issues and a few other ones, including the latest political polls. So join us 8 o'clock online right here where you're watching now. And I'm out of time. And just a warning, Simon is back. He's back in the country, so fantastic. He's finished his junket. And he is back in New Zealand. So tomorrow morning, solid ground at 7:30. Just a warning, Wednesday morning and Friday morning, I won't be here. Out of action, a little bit of a birthday celebration. So I will be back next Monday for Daybreak. Okay, so Wednesday, Friday morning, you get to sleep in. Anyway, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.